Challenging the traditional concert experience, supporting living composers, bringing contemporary music to younger audiences, performing the works of the 21st century. Nashville State Community College welcomes Kelly Corcoran, founder and artistic director of Intersection, Nashville's newest contemporary music ensemble. I'm Colleen Phelps, and this is Nashville State of the Arts. Welcome. Kelly Corcoran, tell us about Intersection.
Well, Intersection is a new contemporary music ensemble here in Nashville. We've been around less than a year, and so we're dedicated to performing music of the 20th and 21st century, non-traditional spaces. So we want to be in a funky warehouse or a barn or somewhere where you're not used to encountering music. We're all about community partnerships and collaborations, so every one of our concerts will be bringing in other partners beyond just our musicians.
Where have you performed so far?
Well, we performed at the Platform, which is a 10,000 square foot space off of 2nd Avenue.
Okay.
No one had ever been there before, which was so cool. They had only maybe done 1 or 2 events before we had been there. And that was really, really great because people came in and, it's not like, oh, I've heard this here before or that there. So total, almost like a dream-like state and trance where you're just experiencing something brand new. And then the other big part of what we're about is half of our programs are dedicated to children and families. So we're really cultivating a new audience for new music.
Why contemporary music specifically?
Well, I think, I've lived in Nashville now for 8 years with the Nashville Symphony, and then 13 years ago, I started the Nashville Philharmonic Orchestra. So, I've been here during a time of real growth and change in Nashville, and I still feel like there has been kind of a gap where there's a lot of music and a lot of repertoire that we don't hear in Nashville. And despite the fact that we're a music city, we have the greatest concentration of music industry people anywhere in the world. There's composers from Europe, from all over that we don't necessarily hear their music here in Nashville. So Intersection is bringing something new, not only by the repertoire that we're playing, but also by the size of ensemble that we are. We're mostly going to concentrate on repertoire that's in that 15, 20 player range. So we're not playing stuff for big full orchestra. We're not playing, a string quartet. We're playing stuff that is for that large ensemble, so to speak.
Would you say it's a little more intimate that way?
Yeah, I think so. And every one of the players really has to be a soloist. They have to be a virtuoso. They have to be at the top of their game. And I mean, that's the case in orchestral music too, but I think, you get to really see up close each of the players and what they're doing. And for our March debut, the audience members, some of them were, almost as close as we are to each other. And so they could see the notes that, the players were playing, and we're really intrigued by what was going on. And admittedly, some of that music on that first program was challenging to listen to. We did a piece by Jonathan Harvey that had 2 harps that were tuned a quarter tone apart from each other, and 2 synthesizers tuned a quarter tone apart from each other. And it was, he explained it as music that was pulverized and atomized. And so there wasn't really a melody to listen to. It wasn't really tonal, but it was a force of nature. And I think that people coming, sometimes when you hear about new music or avant-garde music, people might be like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to like that. But the universal feeling in the room was that people felt like they were a part of something really exciting and new and fresh, and they got to hear it in a way where it was inviting, it was accessible, they were a part of it.
Well, and speaking of that feeling, what would you say to the person who does feel that way, who does feel like, I don't know if this will be accessible for me or for my kids?
Right. Well, music is so diverse, right? And so, even in the genre of country, there might be one artist that I like and one that I maybe don't like as much. And there's such a different encounter with listening, right? And it's so personal. And so I think to say, oh, I don't like contemporary music, that's such a big swath of judgment,
Right.
you know what I mean? That
Right.
that there's, you know, contemporary composers that are writing in every style and every color and with all kinds of influences, and it all fuses together. I mean, you have influences of jazz or folk music or rock, and you know, I'm somebody that I don't like it when we put things in boxes, you know, and we have to put something in a genre category. You know, music is music, and I think in all ways we can find things that we connect to, and we can find things that maybe we're not at the right time in our life to hear it.
Well, and speaking of
you know?
connect, I think an ensemble like Intersection has that contemporary advantage with all of those styles kind of coming together, that the
Right.
person who may not have found what they wanted at the symphony, if they wanted to give classical music another try.
Yeah, I mean, you know, the symphony does such a wide range of programming too,
Right.
but I do think that certainly, you know, with the big orchestra and, you know, big building, there are misconceptions in the world of classical music where you feel like you have to be really quiet and you have to dress a certain way, and, you know,
That you're going to be sitting in a
right,
concert
you know,
hall
and
seat.
so absolutely part of what I'm trying to do with Intersection is to say, hey, let's just listen to music and be comfortable and be open and experience something new and fresh, and hopefully that'll infuse its way into all of classical music. You know, I get Billboard magazine, and I always am looking for the classical charts at the back, and they're not there. And so, you know, I really am trying to say, hey, this composed music has a place in the mainstream of our lives. So we'll
Well,
find a way.
and speaking of the mainstream of your life, you're a very active conductor outside of Intersection and including the Nashville Symphony Chorus. What is a week in the life of a conductor like?
You know, it really is very different every week, right? So, you know, if I'm guest conducting and I'm going somewhere, you know, for example, recently I conducted some Zelda programs with different orchestras, one in Miami, one in Atlanta. So, you know, it's a lot of, you travel to a new place, you know, you have the rehearsals with the orchestra, you may not know anybody in the orchestra, although this is a pretty small world, and so invariably you'll find one or two people that are like, oh, I've worked with you before, oh, and that's always refreshing and fun to find people where you connect. And so, you know, if you're guest conducting, you have however many rehearsals, you're in the hotel room perhaps by yourself at night, you know, studying scores and then, you know, doing the performance. But it really, you know, and then in town, same kind of thing, right? Rehearsals and performances. But some programs have 4 or 5 rehearsals. Some programs might have 1 rehearsal for the performance. So that kind of depends on the type of program. But there's a lot of time at home studying scores too,
Right.
definitely. And I think that's the part that, you know, the general public may not realize or recognize is the time at home, you know, with the cup of tea and you're just looking at the score, marking
but
things.
even tell us a little more about that, like the act of studying a score.
Yeah, I mean, for me, the first thing I do is I always just kind of scan through very quickly, like a very general, okay, how long is this piece? Are there tricky tempo changes? Does it look like like it's tonal? Are there interesting things happening rhythmically? What's the orchestration? You know, just kind of a general overview, which sometimes very quickly can dictate, okay, this is a piece that's going to take months to learn, or this is a piece that maybe, you know, it's something I can learn a little quicker. And then it's a lot of just kind of going in and marking things and noticing things and identifying things. I always try to think about the fact that notation is a flawed system. I mean, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Music is something that exists
can't show everything.
in space, right? Exactly.
Yeah.
And so, you know, a composer tries their best
Right.
to notate everything that's there. But as a performer and as a conductor, you have to kind of dig deeper and look beyond and
Right.
try to say, okay, there's a crescendo, but how much of a crescendo and where is it going to and how
Yeah.
does this make a place in the larger picture and
Right.
scenario of the piece?
It's not just waving your arms.
Right, not at all.
No.
And you know, people, just to say one more thing about that, I mean, people will always ask me, what does a conductor do? Because really the conductor's not making any sound, you know,
Right.
and it's such an odd sensation.
Couldn't
that-
they play without that person?
Right, you know, but when you have all these people in front of you, who is going to determine the tempo or the speed or, you know, which instrument needs to be heard at which moment, and be listening at all moments for balance and phrasing and structure and architecture and, you know, just where things are going. So it's a really fun thing, and hopefully too you're bringing out the best in everybody that you're working with and cultivating an environment where they can be artistically liberated and challenged and motivated too. So
Great. At this point, let's welcome Intersection's composer ambassador, Cristina Spinei. Cristina, welcome to Nashville State of the Arts.
You.
Hi. And tell us, what is the role of a composer ambassador?
Well, a composer ambassador, as Kelly and I have talked about it, is going to do outreach in the community. So hopefully I get to talk to children, to schools, to different members of the community about what a composer is, because a lot of people don't know. And then why contemporary music is important and why we should go to concerts and hear music that was written maybe a month or 2 months before the performance.
Great. And I think this kind of involvement, having the composer on hand, is unique to new music. Obviously, we can't raise Beethoven and ask him, you know, to talk about his Fifth Symphony. So what advice do you have for a young composer as they enter that kind of partnership with an ensemble?
Well, they have to be, first of all, have a voice and know what your voice is and be confident in your own music. And don't be afraid to go out and talk to people. I feel like as composers we're always, you talked about studying scores at home and being home a lot and doing a lot of work before. As composers it's kind of the same thing. We're home composing and maybe I'll go a day without seeing anybody else, you know? So it's very kind of an introverted profession. So go outside of yourself and go and talk to people. People want to know what a composer does. They want to know what the process is because it is such a foreign thing, and I feel like it's not in our cultural consciousness to know what a composer does and the responsibilities. So yeah.
Yeah. Oh, now, Cristina, you're also experienced with starting your own ensemble. It's not local to Nashville, but very quickly, tell us a little bit about Blind Ear Music.
All right. So Blind Ear was formed in 2009 after I graduated with my business partner, Jakub Czapinski. And what it is, it's an ensemble that our musicians are in front of laptops. They play music that the composer is sending them. So basically, we pre-compose loops, 4 measures, 8 measures of music, for whatever instrumentation that we want. Say we want to have 2 flutes for a concert. Okay, it'll be loops for 2 flutes. So then during the concert, we have these loops composed. Jakub wrote the software that makes it possible for us to send those loops to the musicians in real time via network connection. And so we can change dynamics live, we can change tempo. The duration of the piece is never set. We can make it really short if we want to keep on going on. The musicians are listening to a click track, so we can sync them. We can dephase them by a 16th note, an 8th note, which makes it really easy to have these cool stereophonic effects.
Oh, that's exciting. Now, both of you, tell us a little bit about starting a new ensemble. What kind of steps do you take once you have that first idea, bringing non-traditional music to non-traditional spaces and incorporating technology? What did you do after you had that idea?
I can go first.
Go first.
I mean, I think, you know, first of all, I had the idea, and that's such a central part because you want to make sure that your idea has value, that it has meaning, that it's bringing something to the community that maybe isn't there already, and that your values and skill sets and talents are the best, you know, to bring that to life. And so the first thing I did, I actually met with Jen Cole from Metro Arts and spoke with her because she has her hands on the art scene here in Nashville. And I said, hey, is this something that, you know, it's viable? Is it duplicating anything that we're doing here in Nashville? And just kind of wanted to get a sense of what was going on. And the best advice she gave me was to make a business plan. And so to really identify what's your mission, what's your vision, what are your strategies and objectives, how are you going to do it, what defines success, why is Nashville poised for this right now here, and then having peer organizations to compare and contrast. You know, if you're showing a new idea, people may not know what it is that you're talking about, and so to say, well, here's an example of it in Seattle, and what they're doing, that's the same as what we want to do, but what we're going to do that's different. And so having that kind of comparison was really a great informational tool for me to be able to share. And so having that vision very clearly defined first and foremost before I began the conversations to get board members and get people on board was really important. And not to say that I'm not open to feedback and ideas from others, but the idea itself has to be so strong, and you have to have so much passion behind it to really get people to come on board. So yeah, I mean, and then it's just been getting a team, you know? Yeah.
What would you say?
Along the same lines, definitely a business plan is a very important thing. You have to decide whether you want to go the route even of a profit or nonprofit, how you want that to be structured. Since I was doing it with another person, we were an LLC, So we went to, New York has this great program called SCORE, which is for small businesses. It's basically free counseling from people who have maybe retired, that were in the business industry, some were in the arts, some were lawyers. And you basically go to them with a business plan or with an idea, and they tell you what you should do and steps to take about how to incorporate and things like that that you don't learn at a conservatory.
No.
So it's important to take advantage of resources outside of what you know. And then just experiment, you know, just perform, just try to get it off the ground, because so many people have so many wonderful ideas that never happen. So just go do it. And if you fall flat on your face, you'll know the next time to do something differently. Yeah, you do learn.
Yeah. All right, we have some student questions from Nashville State students. A lot of our students have young families, actually. We're a community college. So do you have any advice for getting children interested in classical music?
I would say have them listening to it, you know. I mean, I have a 4-year-old little girl, and we recently put on the Carillano piano concerto, you know, and she loves it, and she's like, this is so intense, you know, and she just wants to hear it again and again. And or we were listening to Stravinsky Firebird, the Infernal Dance, you know, and she's humming the tune. And so
my son's loving Firebird from Fantasia.
So there's
right now.
something about just listening to it, so it doesn't seem foreign, it doesn't seem unusual. It's just the same as any other music, and I think that that's a real vital part of it. I don't know.
What would you say?
I think also going to performances. When children see people performing, I think it inspires them. I know when I was learning piano and I went to see a performance, I wanted to be better than the person on stage, so I practiced more after I saw people. You know, that helps to inspire also if your child is taking lessons. I think that can help them to work on their own.
Okay, question 2. If you could take J.S. Bach to any concert today, what would you take him to and why?
I have 2, actually, if I may. One was the Britain War Requiem, which is coming up, because I think Bach would be so excited to hear like a big grand choral piece with orchestra and what a modern composer has done with that. And then the other was, I was going to say, was Intersections March Concert, because it had so much diversity in the repertoire, and I think hearing what people have done in the last 50, 60 years in music would be really very exciting.
Cristina?
Mine was a little more general. I thought a jazz club, because I feel like there are so many similarities between Baroque music and jazz, as far as there's room for improvisation and there's a chord structure that you're following but in a different way. I think if you knew those same rules and applied it to something completely different like jazz, it would be pretty cool.
Okay, now last question from students. Given the compulsion, what classic TV theme song would you have Intersection or Blind Ear Music interpret?
I would say The Simpsons.
Yeah.
Woo! Well, you should do it.
Yeah. I'm trying to hear it looped, The Simpsons looped right now.
It could work.
It would be exciting. I'll
That's
volunteer
funny.
for the xylophone part.
Perfect.
So much movement. That would be exciting, layered together. So just a little bit of time left. I think, what would you have to say to the person who, and we talked a little bit about this already, Cristina, though, the person who is a little tentative about new music? What would you say to convince them to give it a shot?
I think that's part of where the composer ambassador, composer outreach things happen, because you have a personal relationship with someone. And if somebody, for me, suggests to go see something or to go hear it and I trust their opinion, I'll go and do it. So I think that's why a composer ambassador and these outreach programs are so important. I think you stunt yourself by not trying new things, and I feel like most people would agree with that.
And it's great that you've made that connection. Now we're going to hear a preview of Intersection from their last concert this March. Welcome back, and Kelly Corcoran from Intersection, welcome to the lightning round. We're gonna let Nashville get to know you a little better. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay, number one, your favorite Nashville restaurant.
Marche in East Nashville.
And number two, what was on the radio today when you pulled into the parking lot?
WPLN, NPR.
Horse. Number three, best thing citywide that's happened in Nashville this year.
Ooh. I think the mayor race is really cool. I mean, I love Mayor Dean, but I'm really excited that we're continuing to have a dialogue about the future of the city, and people are really engaged and excited and wanting to learn about the different candidates and what the future is going to hold about the city.
And it's been so exciting to see the arts being such a big part of that dialogue.
Yeah.
I totally agree. Number four, coolest artist you've worked with in Nashville.
That's hard. I think I would say Amy Grant because she's just awesome and wonderful and so warm and so present in the moment wherever she is, whoever she's talking to, and just a great singer and great artist and a great person.
And that was with the symphony, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, and I've conducted and worked with her all over, but yeah,
Okay.
my first time working with her was here at the Nashville Symphony.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 5, your karaoke jam.
It would have to be More Than Words by Extreme. I love that
the whole bar
song.
singing. That's good.
More Than Words. I love that song.
Besides More Than Words, number 6, your bucket list piece of music, the thing you've always wanted to perform and haven't done yet.
Okay, well, I think as a conductor, I've actually never conducted Beethoven 9 in its entirety.
Oh.
I've sung it countless times,
Right.
and I've conducted the last movement multiple times, but I've never conducted the whole symphony. So that's like before I die, I have to do Beethoven 9 at some point.
It's on my bucket list too. Number 7, something Nashville would be surprised to learn about you.
I think that when I was in like high school and undergrad, I was really interested in Broadway and being like a Broadway star. And I went to New York and took auditions and like got an offer for a touring production and like turned it down because I decided to stay in school. And like, anyway, I just think that, you know, I was like the kid who was in high school with the video camera set up, like singing Les Mis at the top of her, you know, her lungs, like, and I had like a.
You were the kid from Glee.
Yeah, yeah. I had a job on the Spirit of Boston, like a cruise ship, and I was like waiting tables, singing, you know, songs, and I was like hardcore,
Awesome.
Broadway chick.
Number 8, early to rise, night owl, or no sleep?
Early to rise.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, I try. I
Right.
don't always succeed.
Number 9, what gadget or app can Kelly Corcoran not live without?
Oh, I guess, yeah, just my iPhone in general, but I hate that that is true, so I'm gonna say my aromatherapy essential oil thing next to my bed.
Great.
That makes me feel calm and happy.
That can help with early to rise.
Yes.
Number 10, finally, one musician, living or dead, who you'd want to have a beer with.
Mozart, for sure. Absolutely.
He knew how to party.
Yeah,
Totally.
definitely.
All right, Kelly Corcoran, 2 sentences to preview Intersection's new season.
Ooh, the show coming up in June or even next year? I'll
Next year.
Throw
Go
it all.
for it.
Yeah, I mean, okay, well, we have a show in June, Pooh Zoo and a Dino Named Sue, which is our first family concert. And then next season, we're going to announce our season over the summer, and we have all kinds of interesting stuff in store. We might be doing a mariachi program. We might be doing a concert featuring the Onde Martineau, a French electronic instrument. And so we're really kind of bringing new sounds, new colors, new music, new experiences to Nashville.
All new. Kelly Corcoran from Intersection, thank you. For more information, visit intersectionmusic.org. Pooh, the Zoo, and a Dino Named Sue will be at the Green Door Gourmet on Sunday, June 7th at 2 p.m. and 3:30 p.m. with activities from smart, scrap-made art before and after. Kelly Corcoran from Intersection, thank you for sharing with Nashville State of the Arts. Keep up with us on Facebook and Twitter for updates on our upcoming schedule. Tune in this fall to learn more about the people making the fine arts happen all around Music City. Thank you for watching Nashville State of the Arts.